Hey everyone, welcome to Regents Physics. I'll be the instructor for this year. My name is Mr. Clow, and I just want to do for this whole meet the class type of thing. Just go through some of the expectations. I know some of it was already kind of covered in the syllabus that you should have seen and signed, but just I want to give a quick rundown so that everyone's on the same page. So first and foremost, the best way to contact me is through email. This is my typical standard teacher email. This is really easy, makes life really easy for everyone since we can communicate very quickly, and I can kind of communicate throughout the day. So that's nice. You can also contact me through Canvas, either through your child's account or the parent observer account, which, if you don't have one set up, is you could check out the school's main page or contact someone like guidance. They might or tech. They might be able to set one up for you, help you with that. But this one's another one. It kind of goes to the email, so it goes in that same area. Now you could also call me. However, I have found that this can end up being difficult. It ends up kind of almost being two passing ships in the night where we're constantly missing each other. I have very limited time during the school day, so unless you want to be called at, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning, not really ideal. And a lot of times my extra help classes, which is another section of time where I have availability, is usually filled up. So I will try, if you do call me, I will try my best to reach out to you. I'll first try to call whenever I can. But if it does seem like we're constantly missing each other, I'll try to go through email. All right. Now, one thing I want to uh, give everyone a heads up is that this class is a difficult class. Just be aware of that. This is not an easy class. This is not one of those types of classes where kids can go in and coast and easily get 100. This is tough. However, the reason why it's tough isn't really because of the content it being tough. It's just difficult because it's different from every other class. And a lot of the other classes, students are capable of passing through the material just by reviewing the night before, memorizing certain things. And that's not something that they could do here. No amount of memorizing or cramming the day before will help prepare for these exams. It has to be a continuous thing, a continuous practice, if you will. And one of the other reasons why this is difficult is because it requires two things that students typically struggle with having at the same time. It requires reading comprehension skills. They need to be able, a lot of the problems that they do are word problems. So they have to be able to read something like here and be able to pull out what every single number is supposed to represent, all this information. Uh, so they need to have that reading comprehension skills, being able to take this information and put it into an equation like this. Though I will say this is a significantly difficult equation compared to the ones we use. We use much simpler equations. But they would take these numbers and plug them into an equation. And then the other aspect that's difficult for people is the algebra aspect, being able to actually do math and work with that. So a lot of times I found is that there are some kids that are really good with the algebra, and then they're not that great with the reading comprehension, and vice versa. So that's one of the issues that people struggle with in the very beginning is developing these reading comprehension and algebra skills at the same time and bringing them to a level where they can actually do a lot of the problems. So a lot of times in the beginning, if students are facing difficulty, it's because of this difference in reading comprehension skills and algebra skills. I do also want to give a warning that this class does end in a Regents, and because it ends in a Regents, this means that the grades that they're getting in the class need to reflect what they will be getting or expected to get on the Regents. You know, we don't want to have a scenario where there are kids getting 90s or higher than 90s in the class and then grabbing a 60 on the Regents. So we want to make sure that the grades in the class reflect what they're getting, what they should be getting on the Regents. And because that this class isn't an easy one to get an A in, you know, if this kid wants to get an 85, they kind of have to work for it. Now there are some kids that will naturally get the material, you know, it'll be easy to them, and they will be able to grab that 85 very easily. Some kids are going to have to work for it. So unfortunately, there will have to be some work depending on the student and depending on what grade that they really want. Um, I did put here that the grade should be close to their chemistry Regents. Um, So whatever they're getting in the class or whatever they got on the chemistry regions, they should be getting grades that are at or above that. That's what I found, on average. Not always doesn't always be isn't always the case, but it's a good rule of thumb, if you will. So a few things that they need. They're going to need a pen and ideally a pencil with an eraser. These are practice. These are problems that they're going to be solving. So there's going to be a lot of manipulating of equations, making mistakes. They need to be able to make those mistakes. So I want them to be able to erase things and start over. I don't want them to be afraid to make a mistake because they don't want to cross it out and make things messy. They're going to need a calculator. I would prefer a graphing calculator, but it doesn't have to be a graphing calculator. It could just be a standard four function calculator. Anything that has trig functions in it, that's fine. Now, if you don't want to get one, that's fine. If they don't have one of their own, they could always ask the math department if they can borrow one. The reason I say this is because um, I've noticed that there are a lot of kids using their phones to as calculators, and that's perfectly fine in class. But it's not going to be something that's allowed on either in-class exams or the Regents. They're going to need to use a calculator. So if they end up using my calculator on the exams, I just don't want a situation where kids are fumbling around trying to figure out where things are on the calculators because they've been so used to using their phone to do calculations. So I'd rather them have a calculator that they practice on in class and then practice and then able to use and understand fully how to use it on the exams. That way they can focus more time on answering the questions. And then the other aspect is three-ring binders. So everyone should have a three-ring binder. They are given practice questions, note packets, and question packets, and things like that. There's a lot of handouts. It makes life a lot easier if they just pop them into their three-ring binder. All right. The grading policy is very similar to the rest of the science department. Assessments are 70%, labs are 15, and class participation and homework are 15. This is how we get away with being able to say that the grades in their class should reflect what they get in the regions. The assessments, which are regions level questions and formatted like a regions, is the bulk of their overall grade. So if they want to improve their grade by a lot, it's the assessment category that they're going to have to improve it in. Now, there are three things in the category of assessments. The one of them is tests. So at the end of each unit, they're going to be taking a test. Typically, there's 2, maybe 3 tests a quarter that they're going to work on, and it's the typical thing. It's a test based off of everything that they covered. The test will be set up to look exactly like the regions at the end of the year. It's formatted like that. It has the questions from the regions. Everything about it just screams, this is a regions exam. The only difference is it's usually 20 to 25 questions, depending on the time of the year. So hopefully the transition to taking the regents is a very smooth one. But this ends up being essentially mini regents exams. It's got multiple choice questions and free response questions. In addition to the test, there's also going to be a quarterly exam at the end of each quarter, which covers everything in the quarter. The reason I incorporate the quarterly is because it allows me to drop the lowest test grade, and I think that this is really nice because this kind of alleviates a bit of stress on the test. Not all of the stress, but some of it, because now if they do have a major issue on one exam, there's always a chance that they can redeem themselves. Unfortunately, it happens at the very end, so they won't know until literally when it's too late to make any other changes. But still, it gives them that last Hail Mary attempt to improve their grade. Now, the third one that I kind of skipped before is the quizzes. So what ends up happening is after they do the test, uh, they will get a chance to do test corrections on those questions that they got wrong, and those test corrections will count as a quiz. These are not optional; these are mandatory. Like I said, they count as a quiz grade, and a lot of times I have found that there are kids that do really well on tests, but then their overall grade gets pulled down because they're not doing these test corrections. So at the end of each test, there's a test correction. They'll be given a sheet. They'll have to re-answer the questions and show work for it in order to get credit. I'll go over all the details with them in class, but I just wanted to mention this, that this is what the quizzes are. They're able to take the test home, so it's not like it's in class. It's it's essentially a homework assignment. Class participation grade. This is I said it's based off of three categories, but this is the class participation and the lab category. So class participation is mainly based off of classwork and homework. The classwork is done on a weekly basis. So at the end of each week, there is something called like class participation 1.1 or 1.2. You should see it on iCampus. This is basically a grade of how well they've been doing in the class as far as doing their work, right? So sometimes I have them doing independent work, working on practice problems, writing down notes. And if I find that they're constantly on their phone or they're not taking notes or not doing practice questions, I start taking off points off this class participation grade. So if you see your child not getting hundreds in this category, it's because they're doing something that they're not supposed to. They're on their phone. They're doing outside classwork, something like that. They're basically not focusing on my class. Homework, honestly, we don't really do a whole lot of homework, but if I do, it'll be based off things like CAS learning assignments. For the most part, these will be graded based off of completion. So as long as students get them done, it'll count. So there's that. Labs are something that they have to do. They have to complete all the labs in order to be eligible for their regions. Um, Most of the times, these are little worksheets that they do. They're usually, they're done almost every single lab period. So there's going to be a lot of labs. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make sure to stay on top of everyone to make sure that labs are completed and handed in as soon as possible. They are not allowed to leave the classroom with labs. However, under special circumstances, I may allow a student to leave with their lab notebook as long as they make sure to bring it in. Please make sure that these lab notebooks do not get lost. I had a student last year who lost theirs in another country. So we don't want that because that means that they now have to remake up all those labs from before. Uh, Absences. If there's ever an absence, I would like someone to contact me through Canvas or maybe ask a friend to make sure that they catch up on work. The one nice thing is that while they might end up missing, note time, time where I'm going over important material. I do have all my lessons recorded and posted on my YouTube channel. Just search for my name, Jason Clow. They are posted on there, so they can always watch these videos to catch up to see what they missed, as if they were never absent. So this is really nice, especially if they feel like they're going to be absent for a long period of time. Again, if your child's going to be out for a week, either through an illness or for some sort of holiday, please make sure that they watch these videos and cover the notes that they end up missing. Some of the tips that I give people is, first off, to be patient. Physics is a difficult topic, especially in the beginning, and some people, it eludes them in the beginning. So it's important to make sure that they take their time with it and try to stay positive. I can't really stress how important a positive mindset is when doing these problems. I've seen many cases where students go in with a defeatist attitude, and I have seen their grades dropping throughout the year because they're constantly telling themselves that they can't do stuff, that they're not smart, and they're not capable of. And then I've seen the reverse where a student, keeps telling themselves they can, and I've seen their grades improving. A positive mindset approaching this class is crucial. So please be patient and just make sure that the students kind of keep at it. And one of the other things is to get involved. A lot of times have parents asking what their child can do in order to improve their grade and whether I recommend tutoring. Obviously, if you want to get a tutor, that's perfectly fine. However, my biggest tips is that the first thing that students should do is make sure that they're A, doing the practice problems in class, and B, asking for help on the practice problems. So a lot of times I'll have kids kind of either half-heartedly working on problems, or they'll work on a problem and then just stop once they finish it, and then they're waiting for me to go over it, which is normally is fine, but sometimes I can come in and give them that extra help. So instead of waiting for the 5 minutes for everyone else to finish, they can see what questions they got wrong right then and there, and then go back and work on it again and maybe get more hands-on direct instruction. So again, I've seen this work wonders where I made this comment, a kid implemented it, and all of a sudden their grade shot up. So it is important that students ask questions, ask for help, and practice problems in class first. I also recommend working with a friend to kind of bounce off ideas and kind of help improve. So there's a lot of avenues that you can take before opting for hiring a tutor. The other thing is, I just want to make sure that